Hello, it's Greg Girls and Gaijin. We're back. We hope you're having a happy day wherever you're listening to this audio content from. As always, we'd like to thank you for your continued support of Greg Grizzled and Gaijin social media and writing efforts. This is episode 045 of the Greg Grizzled and Gaijin, definitely not a podcast show. A light and fluffy look at social media, Japan, Japanese food, expat life, and life in general. As always, your retweets of this and all the wonderful content that we actively tweet and retweet out on Craig Hoffman 11 on Twitter is appreciated. Thank you in advance for helping us get the good word out about Greg Grizzled and Gaijin. Welcome back. Another good show today, I hope. Sunday here in Japan. It's a rainy Sunday, and I'm kind of in my gray sweats, just kind of vegging out. A rare treat for me, to be sure. So I thought I would punch out some more content. This week, I was talking to a fellow Twitter and content creator, JJ Walsh. You can find her at JJ Walsh on Twitter. She runs inboundambassador.com, focused on sustainable tourism and the Hiroshima area, and really beautiful pictures and a lot of wonderful thoughts. She's been in Japan, I believe, quite a long time, longer than I have, I think. And so that's saying something. Greg Grizzled and Gaijin, and more Greg Grizzled and Gaijin than I am, which is sad, I guess. But we were talking about a post she did. She did a walking video. She had run into a Japanese oba-chan, a grandmother, and was kind of unhappy with not, or rather I should say, a lack of real, authentic interaction. And I had commented that probably, basically, long story short, it's better to say nothing to people. And we kind of went back and forth talking about that on Twitter. And I realized that I had grown up in a small town, and when I first came to Japan, I said hello to everybody. I was always like, Ohayo gozaimasu, Ohayo gozaimasu, you know, good morning, good morning, good morning. Students, old people, strangers. And I realized, though, that as time passed and I got fewer and fewer responses to me saying that, I kind of stopped saying it. And I also kind of stopped engaging other foreigners in Japan. And I know that that's a controversial topic, but I go back and forth on it, and I just don't find talking to the random foreigner a good thing, generally. It's not to say that I'm unfriendly. If you saw me walking and you said, hello, Craig, I would say hello and I would talk to you. But in general, and I happened to me on the train yesterday, I was coming back home from an event, and I saw a foreigner. They were a few meters away, and I could have made some magnanimous effort. I think they almost seemed like they recognized me from social media, which happens from time to time. But I said nothing, right? And they kind of looked, and I kind of looked at them, and I sat down and turned around, and I started opening and playing with my cell phone, studying some kanji. But it was a missed opportunity to meet someone. And I've realized that after 14 years of living in Japan, among the bubbles that I live in, more recently is the bubble I've created kind of not really being proactive in talking and meeting people, especially Japanese people. I live in a really small town. I'm the only foreigner that lives here for sure. And even in my apartment building, I've lived here several years, and I don't know any of the neighbors. Well, that's not entirely true. I know one because they happen to be the mother of a student who went to my company's after-school eikaiwa classes. So I know one, right? But I don't really talk to them. They're very cordial and nice. Craig Sensei, Ohayo gozaimasu, when I pass them. But that's it, right? 7 years, no contact with neighbors at all, right? And I realized that I ride the train, basically the same train every morning, and I see the same people, and I've never said anything to any of those people, except for the jerk that's in the way of the door every morning that I get on. But that's another episode of the show, to be sure. Why your foot has to be in front of me when you know that I'm going to get on the train is a mystery. But it happens in Japan. But again, another show. And I realized that perhaps that's not the way to go. And I've talked and written on my content about my circle of social friends basically becoming non-existent. And I was talking to my great friend who lived here several years, Braden, in America. And he laments the same thing, that slowly his circle of friends got really, really small. And he, like me, is married to a Japanese person. And you would think that you would be the most popular person and thing since sliced bread. But you're not. But I am popular. I walk and people see me. They know who I am, first as the foreigner. And many people know me as Craig Sensei. But they're not people that I spend social time with. And so sometimes I sit and I think, maybe I should be more proactive in making friends. And I go to a lot of volunteer events. I'm an active member of the international community in a variety of communities here in the local area. I support that stuff fully. And I see foreigners, a few lifer foreigners, and we always talk shop and we exchange a few pleasantries, but that's where it ends. And even some of them are my pals on my private Facebook, and it's great. But I haven't been out with them on a social level in more than like 7 or 8 years. And I broach the subject sometimes, like, hey, we should get together. And sometimes they do too. And it never quite happens. And I don't know why that is. I like them. They like me. It's not really that sort of problem. But I go to these events and I meet a lot of the new foreigners and I talk and they have questions and you try to help them. And of course, you're very useful when you've been here a few years for translations and solving problems. Your average foreigner has a lot of the same issues and problems. So there's a cookie cutter answer that an experienced expat can give such a person. But I realize that that's where the relationship generally stops. And again, I'm a busy guy. I work a lot. I have commitments and I'm married. And I can't just up and have a drinking night regularly, right? If you know me, you're probably going to get to see me on a social level once every 4 or 5 months. I have about one free day that often where I would like to do something. But I also realize that when I walk to my company and I walk home, and even when I deal with coworkers, beyond good morning, good afternoon, or good job today, I'll see you tomorrow, I really don't talk with them. And after I was talking to JJ Walsh, I sat down and on a little piece of paper, I wrote how many times this week I had said something to somebody here beyond work-related things, teaching students, of course, and it was a 0. Even my wife and I don't really talk deeply about a lot of things. She was driving me to my company on a rainy day last week, and I started jabbering on about something as I do, and she turned up the radio. She just finds such conversations rather trivial and unnecessary. And I notice even in our text messages, we use a popular line program here in Japan, and I'm always writing, I love you, I miss you, or I put a little emoji. And of course, my wife is perfect and loves me a lot, but her messages are generally, hi, okay, and some cute little emoji. We know how each other feels, and we have other priorities in our home life and people that we put above our relationship, and that's where our focus is. I'm much more concerned about when the next event is, or next thing that I have to do, or how much it's going to cost, than we are probably really talking about how was your day. And again, another missed opportunity to simply have a little sincere and genuine human interaction. And I'm on Twitter, and I know weekly I make a point of reaching out to a variety of foreigners who live here in the content creator realm. And some of them seem really eager to talk to me, especially offline and behind closed doors. And I love that. But I realize that a lot of them don't really interact with me at all. And again, I don't really know how to put my finger on the root cause of that problem. I won't say that people are antisocial, but they're kind of socially apathetic, and I fall into that. And I've realized that that's probably not a very healthy response. It's an easier response, as I was telling JJ, to just shut up and walk, basically. And I do it so often. And again, I was on the train recently, and I sat down next to someone after someone had got up, and the person who had gotten off the train quickly had forgotten like an electronic car opener. And I tried, sumima, sorry, and they didn't hear me. And the girl next to me, and I looked at her, and I kind of said in Japanese, what should we do? And she's kind of like, I don't know. And we left the item sitting as one often does in Japan. But that train was going a long way away from the station I was at. That guy is never getting into his car. I hope he has a spare key. He was screwed. We probably should have gotten it to the train staff more quickly, but that's not what one does. But she seemed shocked I had even talked to her. And we sat after that brief exchange on the train, and I got up to get out of the train. She nodded and I nodded, and that was it. I don't know. There's something wrong when living in a foreign country that should be an opportunity for exploration and relationship building and feeling good about your place in the country. And yet, I feel kind of shut out by that. And I feel like I'm the one who shuts the door. And I used to say that when I was in my old apartment. One of the hardest things about Japan is outside, I was Craig Sensei, and it was a wonderfully fun experience and all my expat friends. But my worst thing in my life was to go back to my old apartment and watch the metal door shut behind me, and I locked it. And while that was my little, quote, bubble of America and Western civilization with the internet that I finally got connected to, I was really relieved to shut out Japan. And again, that's hard to understand perhaps for those of you who have never lived in a foreign country, and probably even somewhat difficult for those of you who have lived here only a short time. But it scares me a little that in the future, as I become truly gray, grizzled, and gaijin, and perhaps people in my inner circle aren't around by choice or sadly through fate and circumstances, I'll be a really lonely old man. So I don't know. So if that's you, wherever you are in your home country, or as a foreigner living in a strange land, I'm not telling you to be friendly to everybody, but I'd ask that you take a little time to consider perhaps how you can connect with people in a more positive and genuine way. That's it, and have a great day.